back to Hockey North Weekly. I'm your host, Tyler Lazat, here with Brendan Palu. Brendan, how are you doing today?
It was a pretty busy weekend all around. We had the U15 Caribou Cougars, the only team at home in terms of Caribou. So like you, I was busy with that. Pretty eventful, obviously not coming out on the right side of things, but still pretty good weekend all in all. How about yourself?
Doing good as always, and it's been a bit of a rough weekend here for the Caribou Cougars. U17's not in action this weekend. U15 AAA and Caribou Cougars hosted the Greater Vancouver Canadians here at Kin 1 for a doubleheader. And the U18s were on the road in Langley, facing at the time the 2 seed Valley West Giants, and of course Valley West with 2 big wins against the Caribou Cougars on their home turf, and then the U15 Caribou Cougars not having a much better fate against GVC here this weekend.
Yeah, it was a 5-3 loss on Saturday in what was maybe considered a pretty sloppy game all the way around for both sides. Greater Vancouver coming back with the game-winning goal. Mitchell Clements, with about 4 minutes left to win it. He also got the empty netter on Saturday to ice away the victory. Tougher pill to swallow on Sunday as Caribou had a 3-1 lead after 2 periods of play, dominating GVC in shots by over a 2-1 margin, only to fall short and lose by a 4-3 margin to the Canadians at Kin 1. Game-winning goal came off the stick of a Canadians player with 12 seconds left. So no points for Caribou in that weekend at all, and they'll still be in the top 3 for now, although an opportunity missed, especially given the fact that Greater Vancouver came into this season at 1-7.
Yeah, you got, as you said, Greater Vancouver coming in with only 1 win on the campaign so far, and Caribou Cougars U15 having a really strong, start to this year and carrying a lot of momentum, led by Kadrick Moichin, Tavin Peterson. Jackson Lodge has been very phenomenal. A lot of good young players, a relatively younger team again this year too. So not totally unexpected to see maybe some inconsistencies and maybe a few mistakes kind of cost them now. But definitely going forward, I think it's going to be probably the best for the development as they work towards playoffs.
And sometimes you need a weekend like that to regain your focus. Sometimes when you're 6-1. I don't want to say there's inflated egos at that age, but sometimes when you have that record that early or have so much success, things might come a little bit too easy to you. And, that's maybe the expectation every weekend. And that was clearly not the case on home ice against Greater Vancouver, as give props to the Canadians for working hard both days and getting the wins out of it.
Well, especially at this level, it's very important to remember, you build your character as a player, as a team, and you develop and you learn how to win through those losses and through those mistakes. So not at all concerned here for this talented young U15 Caribou Cougar squad, and it's going to be a lot of exciting hockey coming for them here in the future.
Mm-hmm. Of course, U18s losing in Langley, as you mentioned. U17s are off. We've got some home action next weekend. I do believe it's the U17s at home. Next weekend, Saturday, Sunday. Saturday, 6:30 at Kin 1, Sunday morning at 10:30. Usually it's an afternoon game on the Saturday, but due to ice availability, sometimes you have games in the evening. So that's the case for us next weekend with the 6:30 start at Kin 1 next Saturday. And what's another big weekend for Caribou coming off the bye? Get some bumps and bruises as well as some injured players, some key rest this point in the season. Got off to a bad luck start with the injuries with Elson and Vassallo, and then you have Lutkowski with the injury there that he sustained at home. So a chance for that group to rest and recuperate.
Yeah, it's been a good weekend for that U17 team to really, I think, reflect on the start to the season, as well as getting back into the rhythm. I know Liam Elstad, he's been helping us a lot with the media stuff behind the scenes. U17 has been here at home, and he's a guy that's been itching to get back into the fold, and he's looked really good since joining the team after injury. Only playing 2 shifts the first game of the year before having to leave with that injury. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I think this U17 team is going to be looking like more of a late bloomer later in the season as they gear up for the push for playoffs and head into the playoffs. A lot of new faces, a lot of kids from out of town, a lot of injuries like we had mentioned before. So finding that team chemistry, building the momentum is definitely the focus for them right now.
Yeah. And of course, let's talk about, before we get into our video segment, I'll intro our guest for this week's episode. It's Northern Capital graduates and Medicine Hat Rattler players, Sage Nohr and Anna Stewart. Anna Stewart, of course, one of the two goalies on the Rattlers roster this season, while Sage Nohr, a fellow rookie, playing up front for the Rattlers this year. Nohr, of course, saw time at both defense and forward during her 3-year tenure with the Capitals. It was nice to catch up with both of them, and much like a lot of the Northern Capital graduates, a whole bunch of them scattered across the ACAC as well as the Canada West Conference. And we said it once, I'll say it again, that's just proves the testament to the success of the program and how those players are getting prepared to go to that next level.
Yeah, I mean, the Northern Capitals program has done an excellent job over the years of providing that opportunity for the girls in our region to be able to get that development and get that recognition by the recruiters for the ACAC and in some cases the NCAA as well. And it's really cool to see the talent pool for the female athletes here in our sport, in our region, just how deep it is and how much it's growing and how much more popular it's becoming with these younger ages.
And another player, too, that's had success at the post-secondary level, who will be on the podcast in a couple of weeks' time, Hunter Mosher. I had the pleasure of watching play during my first couple of years living in Prince George. Play for the Capitals / Northern Cougars program when it was called that. Ended up playing 5 years at Nipissing and is now playing pro in Sweden. So it'd be nice to catch up with her in a couple of weeks' time as we get Hunter on the podcast. But she's just another one of those shining examples of players that from the Caps program that have graduated on to higher levels and now experiencing pro. And of course, let's not forget Haley Armstrong, who's doing well at Bemidji State. We'll hear more about her in my Northern Roundup of all the players that are currently playing and doing well in those leagues. So that's the Northern Capitals program has been a mainstay. It's been a door opener for a lot of players that have put on that sweater.
It very much has, and I remember many times, talking to GM Trevor Sprague of the Northern Capitals program as well as the Caribou Cougars. He likes to highlight that it is the highest level of hockey here in the region available for these young athletes. As you look at the men's side of the sport, you get the option then to go move into junior hockey, play that 4 years of junior hockey, and look at making the jump into U Sports, NCAA, or even further go get drafted like Nico Majadovic, right? It's a lot different for the female side of the game, and the Northern Capitals are a very important piece here in our region.
Mm-hmm. With that, I'll start with my Northern Roundup. It's a bit of a lengthy one, so get comfortable. We'll start things off in the Western Hockey League. Cameron Schmidt continuing his hot start to the season. The draft-eligible forward for the Vancouver Giants out of Prince George. 21 points in 12 games, 2 assists, and an overtime loss against the Spokane Chiefs on Friday. 17-year-old is tied for second in the WHL in scoring as a 17-year-old, so a pretty impressive start for him. Caden Brown, 6 points in 9 games for the Everett Silvertips. Leighton Feist, 6 points in 13 games for the Kamloops Blazers. Feist, of course, out of Dawson Creek. He had 1 assist in Saturday's 6-4 win over the Moose Jaw Warriors. Miguel Marquez, the signed third-round pick of the Nashville Predators, 15 points in 9 games since returning from camp. On a 5-game point streak right now at the moment for the Hurricanes. And he had the game-tying and empty net goal in a 5-3 win over Red Deer on Saturday. Gavin McKenna of Whitehorse, 21 points, 13 games with the Medicine Hat Tigers, 3 points in a pair of games over the weekend. David Hoy of Fort St. James, 2 points in 9 games for the Portland Winterhawks. Tanner Mollendijk, Evan Gardner of the Saskatoon Blades, Mollendijk and McBride. Gardner of Fort St. John. Gardner, of course, in 9 starts. 5-2-1-0 for the Columbus Blue Jackets prospect. Colton Garrier, who we had on earlier on the podcast not too long ago, rookie for the Seattle Thunderbirds. Just wrapped up an Eastern Road swing. He's still stuck on 4 points in 12 games. Is Colton. Smith Redmond and Chase Harrington of the Spokane Chiefs. Chiefs rolling along in the Western Hockey League's Western Conference. Redmond in 10 games since being acquired has 7 points. Harrington 12 points in 14 games with the Chiefs this season. So safe to say both Northern-born players are flourishing under brand new head coach Brad Lauer. And of course, Terrell Goldsmith, who will be our guest on next week's episode of the podcast, recently signed by the Utah Hockey Club, 2 assists in 8 games with the Tri-City Americans. To the BCHL now, Brady McIsaac, 14 points, 13 games for the Alberni Valley Bulldogs. His younger brother Kenyon, 3 points in 12 games for Alberni Valley. Lyndon Macco, Prince George Spruce Kings out of Vanderhoof, 7 points in 14 games. He had 1 goal and 1 helper in Friday's 5-1 win over Powell River. Mason Lowen, give him a shout out. He's from Charlie Lake. Scored his first BCHL goal on Saturday in a loss to the Kings on the road. So the Spruce Kings splitting those 2 games in Powell River. But congratulations, Mason, on his first ever BCHL marker. Carter Hesselgrave of Quesnel, 3 points, 13 games with the Spruce Kings. Brody Martin, no points in 8 games so far as a member of Prince George. Ryder Green, who's the backup, he's 1-3 on the season. Callis Pierce, the Trail Smoke Eaters, he's from Prince Rupert, 7 points in 13 games with the Smoke Eaters there. That rounds up the BCHL. To the SJHL, Ray Darbury, 2 points in 9 games with the Flin Flon Bombers. Josh Sales, 7 points in 13 outings with the Humboldt Broncos. Josh, of course, from Prince George. Merrick Mamek, 6 points in 9 games with Humboldt this season. He's out of Quesnel. Owen Wilkinson from the Fort St. John, Dawson Creek area. No points in 9 games with LaRange. Tyson Matthews, not a Northern BC-born kid, but a former Caribou Cougar. He's got 2 points in 9 games with LaRange. Decker Moinchin in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, 12 points in 14 games with Portage. Scott Cousins, just the 2 games so far. And Will McCabe, notching his first MJHL goal for Portage in a 2-1 win over the Winnipeg Freeze. He, of course, also a former LaRange Ice Wolf. Kootenay International Junior Hockey League, Jaden Jakubowski of Prince George, former Caribou Cougar, 5-2-0 with the Columbia Valley Rockies, 2.57 goals against average to go along with a .925 save percentage. Jasper Tate won his debut with the Grand Forks Sporter Bruins after starting the season with the Williams Lake Mustangs. He made 24 saves and a 3-1 win over Castlegarm. Keenan Holland of Smithers, former PG Caribou Cougar, 15 points in 12 games with the Kamloops Storm. Cade Lawler, another former Caribou Cougar, he's also of Quesnel. He's got 1 assist in 9 games with the Storm. Thomas Clark out of Telqua, 3 points in 12 games with Kamloops. Dawson Davis, 2 points, 10 games with the Nelson Leafs this season. He's from the Fort St. James area. Quesnel's Isaiah Bagri lighting things up in the KI as well with the River Rush, 12 points in 12 games for his hometown team. Tristan Merrill, 3 points in 12 games with Quesnel. Dane Dietz, he's got 5 points in 12 games for the River Rush. Dane Dietz, I do believe he's out of Fort St. James.
Fort St. John.
Fort St. John, yeah. Liam Richardson, 1 goal in 10 games with Quesnel. Of course, he's born and raised in Quesnel. Jakes Phillips Watts, also of Quesnel. He's playing for Revelstoke of the KI this year. He's got 5 points in 11 contests. Thomas Boone, also a member of that team. He's got 1 helper in 5 games. Boone, of course, a native son of Vanderhoof. Asher Lucas of the Williams Lake Mustangs, 13 points in 11 games. Dawson Ertz, he's got 6 points in 11 outings with Williams Lake. Kalen Swanson, 12 points in 11 games. Noah Piers, 7 and 10. Of course, Piers, a Prince George product and former Caribou Cougar. Declan Pocock, another Caribou grad, 5 points in 9 games. Garrett Feeney, another Caribou Cougar alum, pointless in 11 games, although he is playing top 2, top 4 pairing with Williams Lake right now, so logging a lot of ice time and trying to shut down the opposition. And Caden Ernst, 3 assists with Williams Lake so far this season. Pacific Junior Hockey League, Jesse Bordeaux of the Chilliwack Jets, 20 points, 15 games. His brother Merrick, 7 assists in 9 games. And Peyton Lake Cote, 4 points and 11 outings to go along with 55 penalty minutes. Lake Cote, of course, no stranger of the rough stuff at or after the whistle.
Yes, not at all surprised to see those being his penalty minute numbers as he plays rough and tough. He plays hard. He's not afraid to chuck the knuckles. So Peyton Lycote doing what we know Peyton Lycote does best.
And to round out the PJHL, Hunter Henry of PG, 3 points in game split between Coastal and Grandview. Vancouver Island Junior Hockey League, Rylan Davis of Prince George, 9 points, including 8 goals for the Carey Park Islanders. His teammate Cash Caban, another Caribou Cougar graduate, 1 assist in 8 games with Carey Park. And Colby Jeffries of PGE's got 3 points in 14 games with the upstart Lake Cowichan Kraken. JPHL, we've got Chaz Lucas, 10 points in 11 games with HC Edmonton in that league. Brody Wood, 2 goals in 7 games with Island HC. Bryce Heggie, 3 points in 10 games with that same program. Marcus Veldman, 5 assists in 10 games with Okanagan HC. Dawson Nackstead, 10 points in 10 games with HC Edmonton U17. Rylan Harder, U17 goalie with the Calgary Rockies, 2.27 goals against average and a 2-0 record. Dawson Rouse, 5 points in 10 games, also with U17. Langley United States Hockey League, we had him on the podcast in our very first season. Diego Johnson, a point per game pace with the Madison Capitals. He's also a commit of the University of Wisconsin, of course. Diego, former Sherwood Park Crusader, former Merritt Centennial. Taking a look at the university roundup here, we got Jesse Pomeroy, 2 points in 6 games with the Trinity Western Spartans. Dane Dubois, 1 assist in 4 games for Trinity Western. Brett Curley, 4 points in 6 games with the Calgary Dinos women's program. She's out of Williams Lake. Casey Dittner, 1 assist in 6 games with Trinity Western. Alla Boone of Vanderhoof, pointless in 2 contests so far with the Spartans. Penelope Johnson, she was on earlier on this season with us. 1 assist in 4 games with Red Deer College, her teammate. And Kitimat Product, former Northern Capital Cameron Ward, 2 assists in 7 games with the Queens. Abby Bryant, 4 goals, 2 helpers with the Nate Ooks. Keegan Goulet, 4 points in 4 games, also with Nate. Brophy Dunn, pointless in 3 games with Nate. On the men's side of things, he had 7 points last year as a rookie. Jackson Hassman, pointless in 3 games with Nate. Of course, Jackson Hassman, a former Weyburn Red Wing and Caribou Cougar. Blake Astorino, pointless in 3 games with Nate. He also played as junior with the Merritt Centennials in the BCHL. Carter Yardish, 3 points in 2 games with Portage College. John Harrington, 1 assist in 4 games with Lake Superior State of the NCAA. Brooke Disher of Fort St. John, 3 assists in 12 games with Ohio State Buckeyes. Haley Armstrong, 4 goals and 5 points with Bemidji State of the NCAA. Haley Armstrong having a hat trick already this season against Lindenwood. And Jessa Brewer, 2 games, 2 assists in 6 games with State. And Lindsay Gonsalves of Vanderhoof, 1 assist in 5 games with the Trojans as well. So there you have it. That's your lengthy Northern BC Hockey Roundup for this week. And no shortage of players playing everywhere. I'm sure I missed a couple, but packed in a lot in a short amount of time.
Yeah, that was a lot of updates following our hockey players here from the Northern region. And as you said, there's probably a few that we did miss, but you know, that just goes to show there's so much good talent coming out of the North. And I mean, a lot to be excited about, a lot to be proud of. If you're a fan, a relative, a friend of any one of these athletes that's come up the ranks here in Northern BC.
Yeah, and of course, another guy that didn't mention on the list that I'll give a shout out to, Jordan Fairley, goaltender, University of Toronto, in his second season out east. So no shortage of talent, and it just goes to show you, you don't always have to come from a thriving metropolis to get noticed and get to these levels. You know, you put the work in, you play for the right program, and you put your best foot forward in all of these situations, you will get noticed, and we're seeing that in spades with all of these kids and more that I just mentioned.
I mean, that's exactly it. There's a lot of ways to get yourself out there, get seen. I mean, you're seeing it a little bit here with the Prince George Cougars as well on a bit of a bigger scale. For a long time, the knock has been it's harder to get seen here in Prince George. It's hard to really get noticed. But as we're seeing, I believe it was 17 Prince George Cougars former players and current players had attended NHL camps this last training camp season for the NHL. And you look at that as a huge success and a lot of attention coming back to Prince George and the North at that NHL and WHL level.
And with that, of course, a lot more scouts coming to the rinks, especially at the CN Center when the Cougars are playing at home. I saw Bryce Toma of the Detroit Red Wings scouting things out, as well as, Borja Vallis and Bauer Demansky attended the Wings camp. Detroit also drafted Andre Becker last summer, so Bryce has his eyes on a couple of other Cougars, as well as some other players that might have been in action for the Royals as well, as that was a pretty exciting weekend between those two teams. Haven't touched on that as much yet, but Cougars winning 6-3 on Friday, falling 5-4 in the shootout on Saturday, storming back from a 4-2 deficit. But based on what we saw in those two games, could be a pretty exciting rivalry between those two sides. There's not much to choose between the Royals or the Cougars this year.
I mean, yeah, it's the rivalry between the Cougars and the Royals is very extensive. I mean, it was, I believe, 3 straight first-round matchups between the Royals and the Cougars in the mid-2010s. And you're looking at a lot of games. There was a lot of, I'd say there was a lot of emotion, a lot of fights, a lot of gritty lockdown hockey between two teams that really didn't like each other. But now you've got a situation where the Royals are showing some skill, they're showing a lot of structure, they're playing a very good game, and they're a good team this year. You got the skill, and this Prince George Cougars team that had such a good year last year, broke a lot of records for the franchise, now coming in with a lot of heightened expectations. They're battling it out for 1 and 2 in the BC division, maybe 1, 2, 3 in the Western Conference, with Spokane being in that mix, as well as the Everett Silvertips. It's going to make for a lot of good hockey between those two teams this year.
Yeah, and of course they play each other 6 more times. 1 more trip up here for the Royals, 2 trips down on the island for the Cougars. And I mentioned this in my recap when I was covering the game for my PG Now last night. As much as the Cougars are gaga over the early returns and long-term potential that Carson Karls has shown, Keaton Verheff of the Victoria Royals equally as good and as advertised, 10 points in 14 games, and he very easily logged 30 minutes, similar to what Karls did over the weekend. You're seeing a golden age of blue liners here in the Western Hockey League. You've got Verheff with the Royals, you've got Karls with the Cougars. You've got Daxon Rudolph first overall with the Prince Albert Raiders. You've got Ryan Lynn with the Vancouver Giants. And then, of course, there's that Landon DuPont guy who got exceptional status with the Everett Silvertips as well. So a lot of really good, solid blue liners coming up into the Western Hockey League that I think the fans will enjoy watching over the next 2 to 4 seasons.
Well, it's very well set there. And, I mean, you're going to look at a lot of these teams the next handful of seasons. You're going to see as they rise into the top, as they're looking to make those playoff pushes, and they're going to be building heavily around these top defensemen they're so talented already. They look so poised, but they're only going to get better with the experience in the league, and it's going to make dynamics very interesting in the Western Hockey League.
Yeah, and of course the Western Hockey League, Western Conference rather, as well as the league as a whole. Our conference may be looking a little bit stronger than initially thought. At the start of the season, things still might balance out, but there seems to be that 2-tier system right now where you've got the top 4 or 5 that were expected, then a little bit of a drop-off between 5 and 8, 5 and 9, 5 and 10, if you want to include Wenatchee in that mix, who's rebuilding this year. But it seems to be a little bit stronger as a whole, but I think we're starting to get enough separation where it might be a 2-tiered system when it comes to the haves and the haves-not in the Western Conference, although I will say there has not been a lot of easy spaces on the bingo card this season for anybody.
Yeah, I mean, that's really well said. I couldn't have put it any better, and it's going to be a lot to look forward to for WHL fans, especially here in the Western Conference, as these gritty, physical, tight matchups continue throughout the season.
Now, Cougars back home on Tuesday against the Moose Jaw Warriors before heading off on the road to play the Kamloops Blazers on Friday. So that's the road ahead of the Prince George Cougars. And without any further ado, I'll throw it to our interview segment on the Hockey North podcast with me. I teed it up earlier. Without any further ado, here's Anna Stewart and Sage Nohr of the Medicine Hat Rattlers women's hockey team. Well, from northern BC to sunny southern Alberta, a pair of Northern Capital graduates are looking to make their mark in the Alberta Collegiate Athletics Conference. Here with me now on the Hockey North podcast is Sage Nohr and Anna Stewart of the Medicine Hat College Rattlers. And welcome both to the podcast here.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, their season has started at Medicine Hat in the ACAC. You've got the program underway in Medicine Hat. What's the first few games been like with this new program?
It's a big adjustment. Like the speed is different, the strength of the girls is different. You're playing against girls that are older than you now, so I mean it can be a big difference from what we're used to from last year.
Yeah, it's been a pretty big change, but it's always fun learning how to do new things and grow as an athlete. So, yeah.
Now, your very first start in the conference, Anna, you were a big part in the good results. You had almost 40 saves in an overtime victory in the Rattlers' first game of the season. Just talk about that effort, what it was like to be a part of winning that first game of the season, along with Sage, and what was a big moment for the program.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. Having a Sage here has been a big part for me. I'm really happy that I get to experience this with her. But for the game, just having confidence in myself and my team was a big part of that. And I'm really happy we were able to pull off that win. It was pretty huge for our season.
As a goaltender, when you're in a situation like that where you're stopping a lot of pucks early, you're making a lot of saves to keep your team in it, do you kind of get into a bit of a zone where you're in tune with the game and you don't feel like anything can get by you?
Yeah, kind of. At some point, you kind of just stop thinking in a sense and just do what you know how to do. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, Sage, you've suited up in the first couple games. Just maybe talk about, where you're playing right now in terms of the lineup and what that first one was like. Seeing your teammate Anna do everything she could to steal the game for your team.
Yeah, I started our first game, which is awesome. So I get to start with Anna, which is a pretty cool thing to do, starting our first games together. I mean, it was like, as I said before, it's a big difference. The older girls, bigger girls, they're stronger. I have a bigger role in the team this year so far. So, I mean, that was a bit nerve-wracking to come into, but I think we're starting to settle in now. So it's getting to be more comfortable and everything.
What's it like for both of you being a part of a new program where it's all first and second year players pretty much, where everybody has the opportunity to carve out their niche, so to speak, and to all play a somewhat equal role in shaping the culture of the program?
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. It's definitely new, and we're still working out like the kinks in the program and stuff like that. But we just being able to be a part of something in the developing process is pretty cool, and knowing that we're gonna be able to make this team something.
Yeah, I would also agree with that. And I think next year we're going to be even better because we'll be third and second years and some first years as well coming in. So I think that'll be good. More experience and everything for the girls coming in. We'll have more of a set group of returning players than we have 15 rookies this year. So it's a big difference.
Yeah. And there's a lot of Northern Capital graduates in the conference that are scattered about. You have Abby Bryant, who just scored her first career goal in the ACAC over the weekend. Abby and Keegan Goulet, former Northern Capitals and teammates of yours, now playing at Nate. You have Penelope Johnson, along with Cameron Ward, playing at Red Deer. You have Jessa Brewer playing at State as well. What does that say about the Northern Capitals program that you were all a part of that helped you get prepared to not only play at the collegiate level but to get notice and get a commitment out of it?
Yeah, I would say RJ has a big role in that. He has done a lot for the girls, especially the graduating players. He puts a lot of time into putting out video for them and talking to the coaches for them, not just in the ACAC but U Sport as well. So we have many options. I think there's a big appeal to the ACAC just because we're U Sport can be a lot. It can be stressful. So I know girls are more looking for ACAC as a college athlete instead of a university athlete.
Yeah, and just being in the ACAC, it makes it a lot easier because most Alberta teams are closer to our hometown of Prince George, so it makes it a lot easier to work with in that aspect.
Now, we'll just kind of go around the horn here and talk about, yourselves as players. With you being a goaltender, Anna, there are any certain goalies that you end up growing up watching throughout the years that you try to, emulate or idolize at all, that you try to apply your game around?
Not really any that are well known, but my former teammate Ashley Shuley, we played together growing up, and she was a really big part of my development, and I looked up to her a lot. And my dad is also a goalie, so he played a big part in that too.
Sage?
Oh, sorry. I'm trying to think. Like, there's a lot of girls that I played with my first year on caps that I look up to, like Haley Armstrong. I know you just had her on the podcast as well. Ella Boone, I played with her for a while. We go on the ice time together in the summer. She's a great person to talk to as well, and she kind of helped me with the transition, just because she's been in U Sport for 2 years, so that helped a lot. And then Keegan as well. She played for University of Calgary. Now she's playing at Nate. She went across seas and played well last year, I believe. So I mean, they had a big role and impact for me, and getting to play with them was awesome as well.
Yeah. Now, you had the benefit, Sage, of also playing forward and defense over the course of your years with the Capitals. There'll be some games, I think, in your second year, where you'd be on the blue line, and then I think in your last year, along with mostly your first year, you were predominantly a forward. How does that help you knowing that you can play many, if not all, of the positions on the ice? Did that kind of help round out your game at all, especially in that last year when you were mostly a forward?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, learning how to play both positions was awesome for me. You see the ice way different than, like, especially moving up as a forward and then going back to D. I can see the difference on like a breakout or playing down low and everything like that. So the roles on the ice are way different, and that's for sure. But it definitely helped me see the ice better, move the puck better, shoot better, learn the lanes quite differently. So.
Let's kind of go back a little bit further for both of you. Let's touch on your minor hockey days. Obviously, you're both from Prince George. You played through the Capital system. How did you kind of first get involved in hockey, and just maybe touch on some of your earliest minor hockey memories if you can?
Yeah, well, for me, I kind of got into hockey because of my little brother. He started playing it, so I kind of followed suit. And one of the biggest memories in minor hockey was going to Wickfest. I remember our first trip to Calgary, I think it was. It was like a 13-hour bus ride. So that was really fun. I like bus trips. They always give the team a chance to bond.
I think for me, my brother definitely got it in for me. My dad also coached me for a bit when I was younger. Definitely Calgary was a good memory for me as well. We also went to Richmond the following year. We won both those tournaments. So I mean, that was really fun to experience as a big group. And there's a core group of us that played together. So some of those names you mentioned that are playing for teams in the ACAC right now as well.
Yeah, and of course, probably a lot of very close friendships playing so many years together, not just with Caps, but through the minor hockey and seeing each other now playing at the ACAC level or U Sports. It's got to mean a lot to all of you and be pretty special.
Yeah, it does for sure.
I guess now, how do you kind of separate the friendship aspect to it to being competitors on the ice As you mentioned, a lot of you are very close and you play together a long time. How do you try and balance that from being, a competitor and maybe wanting to get one up them a little bit on the scoreboard, and then after the game everything's cool and you're all lifelong friends again as if nothing ever happened?
I mean, I haven't had to experience that yet. I mean, we will tomorrow when we play Abby, so we'll see how that goes. But I think it'll be different for all of us for sure. We'll definitely try to one up each other there. So
Yeah, it'll be a fun experience.
Now, did you always want to be a goalie, Anna?
For as long as I can remember, yeah, it just kind of happened. I remember my first year in Adams, I played both positions. I played D and I was a goalie. And then from there on, I was just a goalie, so that's all I've ever known.
Mhm. Now, I asked this question when we went out to Williams Lake, and it was a bit of a hit. Now, I'll ask you this too. If you were stranded on an island with three of your teammates, who would you want to have join you and why?
I'll start with this one. I think I take Bailey with me. She's a little she's good with tools and stuff, so I think she'd be good to bring. And then definitely Bree. She's a little bit of a hunter, so she'll feed me. And then I'd bring Anna for the giggles. Gotta keep myself entertained. So
For me, I would take Sage, Bailey as well, and then Jenna. We're just pretty close group, I feel, and we could all survive together, I think.
Another thing that I touched on in past interviews, and you see the popularity of women's hockey, of course, on an uptick now with the Professional Women's Hockey League that started up last year, carrying into this year. How much of that and the additional exposure of the game inspires you and gives you that much more of a push to want to reach that higher level in hockey once your collegiate playing days are over?
I think it's definitely a good thing for like younger girls coming up. I don't know if that's something I would want to do, but I know there's lots of girls on our team that would like to do that. Other girls in the league, girls playing U Sport, like it's a great thing that we have now. I know there's younger girls in Prince George that are definitely looking at some Capitals girls as well that are still on the team. I think it's a great opportunity for a lot of girls all over.
Yeah, it gives them an opportunity to know that there's more out there, not just ending when you age out of something, that there's more to it now.
Mhm. Do either of you have any like pregame rituals or superstitions or things that you kind of have to do to get mentally amped up for the game? Otherwise, you might feel a little bit out of kilter. Is there any specific things that you kind of carried over during your playing days that help you get comfortable?
For me, I don't really have any superstitions, but usually I'll get to the rink like 2 hours before we're on the ice, and I'll go and I'll stretch and listen to music, juggle a little bit, and just get my mind in it. And that's about it.
I have one superstition. I'm always the last in the group huddle. I don't know why. I don't know how it started, but it's just something I've always done. And it kind of freaks me out when I'm not. So I have to recircle around and come back in.
Mhm. How would you best describe yourself as a player, Sage?
I'm taller, so I think I would be one of the bigger players on the ice usually. Um, I'm a good skater, so I like to move the puck well as well, and then take control of the game when I can. I like to shoot too, so yeah, I take that when I can.
For myself, I think I just work hard. I don't give up. I do my best every single shot I get to not let that puck go in the net.
Mhm. Now, if hockey doesn't quite get you past post-secondary athletics, what are kind of some of your academic goals or life goals and pursuits that you would like to achieve?
Me right now, I'm taking the kinesiology program here, so I'm looking to be like a personal trainer or something in that field, maybe athletic trainer or anything like that. And then I'm going to go home and take their dental hygienist program at CNC when I'm done playing college here.
Yeah, for me, I'm looking into taking the kinesiology program next year, and hopefully I'll be a physical therapist or something in that area, but definitely still working in sports. I know that.
Um, when you what's the transition like living in Medicine Hat? Obviously, the academic years just started. The hockey season itself still in its early stages, but you go from a city in the northern part of the province in Prince George, about 80,000 people. Medicine Hat, roughly about the same, similar size, a little bit further south, of course. But what's the landscape been like? Any huge differences at all in terms of getting around or anything out of the ordinary?
Not too huge. It's definitely warmer here. We're still pushing 20 degrees, and I think back home in PG, it's getting below zero there. So that's one big difference. And it's just drier here. Lots of flat land.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty flat. So once you get out of the city, but there is some hills and stuff, just a couple.
Yeah. Um, any goals individually or personally throughout the first season that you kind of want to achieve at all?
For myself, just keep on improving and just taking every opportunity that I can to get better and being there for my team, doing my job.
Just push myself for next year because I know next year we're going to be even better than we are this year. So we're going to try to keep improving every year that we have.
Yeah. And of course, is there that kind of added excitement surrounding not only all the players, but the team in general that you have a core because you are a new team that you kind of learn and grow together as you continue to gain more experience?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like nobody wants to lose to the new team in the league. So it's more exciting for us, especially when we do get to compete well with the teams in the league. So I mean, it's exciting always.
Yeah, we got something to prove as the new team, and there's always a challenge in every game, so that helps a lot of building the new team.
Do either of you have a favorite pregame meal at all?
Chicken and rice, always.
Mine's usually chicken Alfredo pasta. Yeah, usually
Okay.
what I do.
Um, all right. Well, thank you very much for your time on this. Good luck the rest of the season, and we'll likely catch up again further down the line as your season goes along. So, thank you for coming on, and sure we can do this again soon.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Of course. All right, that was our guest for this week, Anna Stewart and Sage Nohr, Northern Capital alumni, now playing with the Medicine Hat Rattlers. We thank both Sage and Anna for coming on the podcast this week. And next week, we have a Fort St. James product. Terrell Goldsmith joining us on the podcast. We'll talk all about his recent contract signing with the Utah Hockey Club, as well as all things growing up in Fort St. James, as well as life as a Tri-City American going forward on next week's show. But before we sign off, any final thoughts here, Tyler?
Yeah, on the topic of the Western Hockey League, a good friend of us here at Hockey North, Caden Fanshaw, officiated his first Western Hockey League game as an on-ice official, not just a linesman. He did it very well. I just want to congratulate him on that milestone. And not necessarily a hockey player, but he grew up playing hockey here in the North. Me and him played roller hockey together growing up. But being a staple in the officiating community here in Prince George as well as in the North, cool to see him get that opportunity and to do it with such grace. He did it so well.
And I also want to add that two Northern officials added to the Professional Women's Hockey League officiating roster for this season coming up. Prince George's Grace Barlow, as well as Bobby Joe Love of the Smithers Minor Hockey Association. Bobby Joe Love, a former KIJHL referee, also with stints in the Western Hockey League and the American Hockey League as well. So congratulations to both Grace and Bobby Joe in regards to their ascension up the officiating ranks as well.
And that's a good way to leave off this week's episode of Hockey North Weekly. Thank you so much for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you here again next time. Bye for now.